exercises or moves and you're like, feel like it's too late, it's not too late. It's not too late. As long as you're breathing, it is not too late to start something. Start it slow, do a little bit of something. And lastly, on that topic, we used to think you had to exercise for a really long period of time. You got 15 minutes, do 15 minutes. Literally 15. It works. And it's not all or nothing. Just get 15 minutes in, your day will shift. All right, I'm stepping off my soapbox.
I was inspired when you were talking about that you can wake up and choose to do something different, to be someone different, because I just had this conversation with my kids. I
Mhm.
feel like, and again, I learned so much in trying to, like, I've said this before, but I want to teach them ways that they can think and deal with their stressors and regulate their emotions. And it really reflects on me where I need to do some work. Like, so it's super
Mhm.
interesting to the parent to them and then say, oh, wait, what about me? But that sometimes we just feel like, oh, it's not something I do. Right. And we've talked about identity in terms of goals before. Oh, I'm just not that kind of person. But that's the truth is you can be, and I'm just going to echo what you said. You can wake up and decide, I'm going to do something different. I'm going to do something I've never done or something I wanted to do. I'm going to drop something that it feels so ingrained in me. And it might seem kind of small or silly, but it was just kind of an attitude I was getting from one of my daughters. And it felt like she was almost adopting that as like a personality of having and I was
Mhm.
like, I'm just going to tell you this and you might not hear it now, but you can wake up and just not like, and for some things it might take more work, and again, now I'm generalizing here, but just know that there is that nugget of wisdom that you can wake up and you can choose to do something different and it's not too late. And I think that's another common thread you'll hear this season for us, that it's not too late to go out and to do something, to do the thing. um, I also, back to your earlier point about being of service and the small things you can do, because I do feel like I'm living in a space where I don't have a ton of time um, to be of service, to be volunteering, maybe in a more, standardized capacity, however you want to
Mhm.
explain it. But something that I do quite often, and my daughter pointed it out to me, she asked, why are you doing that? But if I'm at like a store, or if I have, so someone is, checking me out, or someone's helping me in an aisle, or someone's taking my cart, or the other day the Comcast guy was here and he was like working in a rush to move something so that I can move my car. And I made a point to say, I'm not in a rush. Like, it's okay. It's okay. Because it seems to me, at least in my experience, the people that are going to be vocal are the ones who are in a rush. Like, people, if they're going to be rude or have attitude, come on, I got somewhere to be. Everyone's so hustle and bustle. So I go out of my way to let people know when I'm not in a rush, so that they can,
Mhm.
and just to watch kind of a little bit of tension release. Like, oh, I don't have to, be, busting my butt for this person. She's okay with waiting a bit,
Mhm.
especially with the cashier, especially if I've been behind someone who maybe was having a rough day, and, well, letting the cashier know, just, yeah, I'm good. Like, it's okay. Like, I've got a couple minutes. Like, it's okay. And that feels good to me, because again, sometimes you can like actually see someone feel a little bit of relief from that. But that just goes to your point that it doesn't have to be this huge major act for it to have a big impact. So remember that, no act too small when you're, trying to do something for someone else. Okay, so getting us back on track here. When we're feeling regret, what can we do about it? And if you remember last week when we were talking about overthinking, we said, you want to do some action, because sitting there and feeling regret actually is important to acknowledge and to feel the emotion. But just sitting and thinking about it isn't going to do anything, right? We want to move into that action stage. So we said be of service, we said doing some exercise. And then a third thing that I'm going to throw in there is some mindfulness and some meditation. That's going to come back up again at the end of this episode. But for me, when regret shows up, a lot of the times it's the what ifs. Well, what if I would have done that? So again, we're talking maybe about regretting a decision or an action I did take, or a lot of the times for me, what I didn't do. If you find yourself saying what if, really at any time, notice, because I I will say I don't think there's anything good that's going to come out of finishing that sentence. What if I did that? All you're going to do is feel bad. There's nothing, you couldn't have done it. You can't go back in time. You're not going to feel better. And there's really, it's not an action that's going to help you. So instead, when you're noticing the what ifs, your mind is not in this present moment, then you're living off in hypothetical world. So how can you bring it back to the present moment? And that's what mindfulness is. Remember, guys, that mindfulness is when you are present in the here and now. You're not worried about what is going to happen in the future, or worried about something that happened in the past or a decision you made. So one of the ways we can pull ourselves into the here and now is by that box breathing that I mentioned earlier in the episode. And again, looking back to season 1, time to meditate, if you want more information on that one. Just sitting with your breath, put on a guided meditation from YouTube. Download the 10% Happier app. Like, there's a lot of meditation sources out there, but what that's going to do is you're just going to practice bringing your attention to the present moment. And that's, again, going to pull you out of that cycle of the what ifs. That's not helping you. It's not helpful to sit in that. Another thing you can do, and we talked about this last week, is to journal, because there are studies that have shown that getting your thoughts down on paper, your worries down on paper, things you're feeling bad about or regretting, it can reduce anxiety levels if you actually get it written down. It's almost like, if you want to imagine, if you want to get a little bit fluffy, you're kind of taking those emotions and putting them down onto the paper. And I know for me, sometimes when something sounds a bit frou-frou like that, I'm like, but try it, because it can be really powerful. And I do use that a lot when I'm teaching a yoga class. Like, imagine your breath is traveling to a certain area of your body to help you to like open when you're stretching better. And when you hear that the first time, you're like, really? And if you try it, you're like, whoa, that was really powerful. So something with journaling, if you're starting to feel, oh, this situation is sitting heavy with me, like, let yourself feel it. Write about it, write down your emotions there, and you might feel a release of some of that heaviness by putting it down on paper. And again, then there's some action there. You're not just sitting and living in your head. And then when we talked about that time limit, like, give yourself some time. Okay, I'm going to allow myself this amount of time to have this bit of a release, and then move on from that situation. So if you're feeling regret, if you're noticing that that's a significant feeling that you're experiencing, then what are your options here? Like we've talked about, you're going to be of service. You're going to put your mind or your energy elsewhere. You're going to exercise or do some type of burst of movement, even if it's only 15 minutes. And then you're going to practice some version of mindfulness, whether it's some type of breathing exercise, a meditation, or some journaling. So those are 3 things that you can do. But why are we doing that? Okay, because we want to have some action, but let's not ignore, let's talk about one more time the importance of feeling it. So Mom, I don't know if you want to address, like, why should we not just sweep it under the rug?
That's a great point, because I think this is the nugget of, and it's easy. We're in territory now where some concepts can sound familiar. You may have heard them before, whether it's through us or just, anywhere else, because you live a life outside of the podcast. That's my guess. So, okay. But that to me is an immediate flag right there. If something sounds familiar, because that doesn't mean I do it. So, okay, just asking people to stay, and what we're talking about here, and staying and feeling it for a moment feels like middle ground. That's the language I would use, is to be and to play in the middle ground space, instead of, when Claire, you're saying the what ifs, that to me is future thinking that's connected to potential anxiety, or, putting a deposit in the anxiety bank because it's something that hasn't happened yet. You're guessing. Or what I also hear, I've done it myself, I've heard it from clients, that the other end of the spectrum is to have that feeling and just go and just be like, I don't care, to dismiss it with language like that. I don't care. Like, that's one way to shut it out, put it away. But that's not giving it its due. It's, you have a feeling for a reason. There's a reason that you're having this feeling. There was something we did or didn't do, and that's not a blame thing. I'm just trying to paint the word picture here of, we're in a situation, we're feeling a feeling. How could we feel it and then use that toward motivation for change? And that's the kind of fuel to the engine of action, is to take the baseline and feel it like that. Okay, I had this thing that either I don't want to feel again, or I'm going to use it to try to feel better. So this is actually good. Like, this is a good thing. So instead of being people that aren't good at soothing ourselves, and we just try to distract ourselves, we're going to stay in it. And one really great space, if you're deciding, you're like, I'm going to try something a little bit differently and I'm going to sit in it for a minute. That's the language I'll use, but I'm going to sit in some great self-compassion. And self-compassion is way different than dismissing something or trying to play out how it could look in the future, like being a fortune teller. That's just being here and be like, okay, this is what happened. This is what happened. So if I can review the tape for a period of time and go, what is it? Is it something I did or didn't do? Because it will help define how you think and feel about things. Because everybody's got it. Everybody has these feelings. It's what we do with them that help to give us information on who we are. It provides clarity. And one of the great ahas that I get out of sitting in this self-compassion, because I'm like, okay, it's cool. Everybody has feelings. Everybody does. What is it? And I give it a name. You know, I'm feeling it because of XYZ. What came to me as like the summary of feeling in spaces like that is I've come to know that what is for me will not miss me. That's where I came to, like, it landed in my lap. Like, I don't have to worry about what if, or I should have, or it could have been played out differently. If something's really meant for me philosophically, I'm going to get it. It's not that I missed a step. I didn't have the right conversation. I wasn't at the right place at the right time. I don't believe that. I really don't believe that to my core, but it's only through sitting with the feelings and being like, and trying it a few times where you try to guess your way out of it or dismiss your way out of it. Just let it sit there with you for a little bit, which again, that feels a little, that's a little granola crunching, but and I don't mean any disrespect with that, but because it's an intangible, it actually is very real. And it allows me to go, that's cool. I'm having a human experience right now. What is it trying to teach me? How can it motivate me? And the self-compassion in those words, when I'm like, I'm practicing self-compassion. I'm giving myself the grace that I so freely give to everyone else. I'm going to let it come right back here. And that's a great place that'll give you information. It'll give you some either next steps or ways to refine your inner philosophy. And that's great stuff. That's the stuff of life, you guys. And it comes from these pain points. I do believe that as well. What do you think about that, Claire?
If it's not meant for me, it won't miss me. I mean, that it's comforting. It's comforting because that really is the opposite of when you're feeling that regret. Because it means that no, it wasn't the wrong decision at the time. You know, you made the decision with the information that you had. And again, if it's not that you misstepped, it just wasn't it what was meant to be, is meant to be, right? And I mean, a lot of these phrases we might have heard before, and they're, things that are embroidered on pillows and stuff, but there's the nuggets of truth in them, right? That's why they have stood the test of time. And it's when you can sit with your feelings, you can start to accept that, okay, I believe that for myself. And it really is a comfort, um, to know that you are on the right track. You are doing what you're supposed to be doing. And one of the ways that we can practice self-compassion, which I want to end with talking about this, and it goes back to meditation as well, is something called a loving kindness meditation. Now, a loving kindness meditation, they're a pretty popular form of meditation. It's where you uh, take feelings of benevolence and loving energy, and you extend them to yourself and to others. And it's actually pretty well studied. People that practice these loving kindness meditations, there was actually a big study in the Harvard Review of Psychology in 2018, but they looked at a group of people who were practicing this loving kindness meditation and those that weren't. And it was good news. It was good news if you're practicing the loving kindness meditation. They saw a decrease in social anxiety and marital conflict and anger, better coping strategies. And it's cool because when you look at it on like a brain scan level, by practicing this type of compassion to yourself, it's enhancing the activation of areas in your brain where there's emotional processing and empathy. And so it can boost a positive sense about yourself and actually reduce negativity. So if you're feeling badly, if you're living in regret, if you're disappointed about your choices, then practicing some compassion, some self-compassion towards yourself can help even at like a neurological level to switch that and to start to think positively about yourself. And so I'm going to give a really brief way that we can do a loving kindness meditation right now, because that's the thing. They're pretty quick and they're pretty easy, which when I'm told to do something new, I like to hear that. Quick and
Me too.
easy. So what we're going to do is I'm going to walk through it just in a couple minutes here, but I want you to know that I'm also going to share with you guys a longer, more full script of a practice of a loving kindness meditation. So if this piques your interest and you're like, this is something I want to try, if you're looking for a to-do for the week, then definitely check out that when we share this loving kindness meditation. But what I want you to do is, if you're sitting and you're not doing anything where you can't be distracted, like if you're driving, if you are driving, then you can still listen along and, or pause it and save it for later. But the first thing you're going to do, okay, this is time for yourself right now. So if you're able to, maybe you close your eyes, sit in a comfortable way. Let your shoulders relax and loosen up your jaw if you're feeling any tension there. Maybe you relax that area between your eyes. You can take a deep breath or two as you settle in, but then just start to notice your normal breathing. Just notice it without changing it, without trying to manipulate it. You're just experiencing the sensation of your breath right now. Imagine that you're experiencing inner peace and emotional wellness. Imagine feeling perfect love for yourself. Focus on this feeling of peace. And if you want, you can even think, as you're breathing in, think of the word love. And as you breathe out, release tension. Try that again. You're breathing in feelings of love, breathing out tension. Now we're going to move on to 3 phrases that you're going to repeat, whether it's inside your head or out loud. May I be happy. May I be safe. May I be healthy, peaceful, and strong. And then one more time. May I be happy. May I be safe. May I be healthy, peaceful, and strong. Take the next few moments to notice how you feel. You may notice feeling a little warmth, feeling some compassion for yourself. And if your mind starts to wander, that's okay. Just come back to these feelings of loving kindness. Know that you can drop in at any point if you want to take time for yourself. Just take these few moments to repeat these loving phrases to yourself. And again, if you're like, more of this, please, I will be sharing an additional longer loving kindness meditation for you. So thank you so much for sharing in this small practice with me, for joining us in this podcast today. And until next time, have a good one, Rebels.